Yo, what is up guys? Welcome to another Wild Rift video, and in today's video I'm gonna be teaching you guys everything you need to know about the brand, the new champion. I also have a Nunu and Willem guide, by the way. There's gonna be a link in the description if you wanna check it out. So I'm gonna teach you everything you need to know, like how his abilities work, how to combo his abilities, when to use which combo, and that part is the most important, by the way, because it's all about comboing Brand's abilities. I'm gonna show you guys a build for Brand, I'm gonna show you guys what runes to use, and I'm gonna be giving you tips and tricks. So let's immediately get into it. So let's talk about how Brand works. His passive, Brand's abilities set enemies ablaze. So as you can see, boom. Let me just kill this scuttle real quick, by the way. It's pretty annoying. So you can set them ablaze like this, and it's gonna deal damage to them for a few seconds, equal to 3% of their max health. So as you can see, when you hit an enemy, boom, they take damage, and then because of your passive, they're going to be taking more damage after a few seconds. So it's really powerful with poking. But the real power comes at the second part of his passive. Stacking Ablaze 3 times on champions and large monsters causes them to detonate after 2 seconds, dealing a lot more damage equal to their percentage HP. A lot more. Let me show you. So here, you know, it deals nice damage. When you use more abilities like this, it detonates and boom, 1900 damage compared to the little damage of this. Now let me show you another thing about it detonating. There is another thing that is actually not written in the passive, but I'm gonna show you. So take a look at the close enemies. When it detonates, it also applies the passive to all of the enemies around them. And it deals the damage of the detonation to all of the enemies around the dummy. Let me show you again. So if one enemy detonates, not only is the damage that it takes AoE, so boom, it's AoE damage, it also gives a stack to the other enemies close to him. So when you detonate an enemy in the middle of other enemies, it's gonna deal so much damage, it's gonna apply your passive on all of those enemies, it snowballs really hard. So now let's talk about the abilities, guys. The first ability, very simple. It's basically like Ezreal's first ability. Boom. Just like that, right? It feels like Ezreal's first ability. You can flash combo it as well. Like here you can see, you can flash combo it. However, there is something about it that you need to know. So every single ability of Brand has a bonus when an enemy is already blazed. What does blaze mean? When the enemy is on fire, right? Your passive. So if the enemy is blazed and you shoot your first ability on him, boom, he gets stunned for 1.5 seconds. That's the bonus of the first ability. Let's take a look at this. He's blazed, boom, and he gets stunned for 1.5 seconds. This is really important during the combo part, and I'll get to that later. But yeah, you can set enemies ablaze with any ability, and then you can stun them with the first ability. So let's talk about the second ability. It's quite simple. Like the abilities itself are very simple. Boom. It deals damage in a target in like an area. As you can see, it's AoE damage. So if you hit multiple enemies, you do damage to multiple enemies. If the enemy is set ablaze, the flame deals 25% more damage, as you can see. So if you set the enemy ablaze, boom, it deals more damage. Let's compare it. So right now it deals 446 damage, and now boom, you see that it's way more, guys. So you know, damage wise, the second ability is your core ability. By the way that you want to upgrade Brand's abilities is first you fully upgrade the second ability, then you fully upgrade the first ability, and then you fully upgrade the third ability. So your second ability is going to be your main damage source. Now let's talk about the third ability. This one is very simple yet very hard in some ways. The simple way is boom, that's it. You just use it on an enemy, it's like boop, and it deals damage, as you can see. So if in a single target fight, you don't even have to aim this ability. It just deals damage when you click on it or when you aim it on that certain enemy. However, when there's other enemies close, that's where this ability gets interesting. So if there's enemies close, as you can see, there is a blue circle around the enemy that I'm gonna cast it on. Take a look at what's gonna happen. Boom, boom. So what happens is the third ability also gets applied on the close enemies, and it deals the same amount of damage to those enemies that are close, as you can see. So this ability is not only good single target, it's incredibly powerful in teamfights if you can hit multiple enemies. However, it's really hard to hit multiple enemies with a small radius like this one. So what does the effect of an enemy being ablazed does? Take a look at this. Enemy is blazed, the range gets increased, and look at that. How incredibly strong is that? So if an enemy is ablaze, the range becomes like 2 times bigger, and boom, you're gonna deal damage and apply your passive on all of the enemies hit. Let me show you how this can really snowball. So if you do this and you use your third ability, look at this. It applies the passive to enemies. When he explodes, it applies the passive. Look at this. Just look at that damage, guys. Look at this incredible damage. But we'll get more to that during the combo part of the video. So now let's talk about the ultimate, which is the ultimate ability. It's so powerful. So let me just show you. You throw a fireball at an enemy and it bounces 5 times. The fireball bounces between enemies 5 times, and every time it bounces and hits an enemy, it sets them ablaze. Let me show you again. Boom, 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 boom. And it sets him ablaze, and then when he explodes, it sets other enemies ablaze as well. However, you don't only have to bounce it between enemies, it can also bounce between you and an enemy. Boom, 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 as you can see. And it's always gonna bounce 3 times on an enemy when you do it against a single target. As you can see, boom, 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 boom. There it is. And he gets exploded again. Really, really powerful in 1v1s, but especially powerful when used in team fights, guys. So now let's get to the fun part, which is the combos. And here, oh my god, this champion is an absolute unit during team fights. But let's first talk about single target combinations. There is like a basic poking combo, third ability, first ability. Very easy. It's like, the thing about this combo is, it's really, really good to stun an enemy like that. You never really want to just use your first ability, because it's just not worth it. It really doesn't deal a lot of damage. Like, it may seem that it's dealing a lot of damage right now, but that's because I'm full build, as you can see. So in the early game, the real power that you can get from the first ability is using your third ability and then your first ability. By the way, you can also use your second ability and then your first ability, but I only recommend you to do that in team fights. I'll get to that later on. So in single target fights, third ability, first ability, and then when you can, your second ability as well to deal the massive bonus damage and trigger your passive. So standard poking, third ability, first ability. If you want to go all in early game, third ability, stun with your first ability, and then easily hit your second ability because the enemy is stunned already. You can do this super fast, by the way. As you can see, this combo can be done really, really fast, and you're gonna do a lot of damage with this. So let's now get to the interesting part, the team fighting combos. So I don't recommend you to start in a team fight with your third ability generally, because take a look at this. You start with your third ability, then you stun the enemy, and it's just, you're missing out a lot of potential of the third ability. Right now, it's still good, but the reason that it's still good, because I've put dummies here. Obviously, enemy champions are not dummies. They're gonna be running around and not sticking close to each other. So let's say this guy and this, like, let's take a look at this here. If I use my third ability like this on an enemy that is not close to other enemies, it's not going to deal damage. Take a look, it's only going to hit 1 target and that's it. And you don't want to do that, of course, because your third ability is going to be on a 6-second cooldown, which is really low because I'm already max build. But in the early game, it's going to be on a really long cooldown and you've only dealt damage to 1 enemy. So instead, you want to stack up your blaze and then use your third ability. As you can see, it gets way more range and you can hit enemies like that. So how do you want to combo this? So if you really want to deal the max damage, first you hit your first ability, then you hit your third ability, and then you hit your second ability on as many enemies as possible that you've applied your stacks on. What this is gonna do is, first of all, you know, your first ability is pretty useless. It's just to apply stacks. Your third ability is gonna bounce to a lot of enemies, and then your second ability is gonna do a lot of damage to a lot of enemies, and it's gonna apply the stacks of your passive to a lot of enemies. So your main abilities are your third ability and your second ability in team fights, and of course your ultimate, guys. Let's now talk about the ultimate. So the basic combo, you start with your first ability, use your third ability, your second ability, and then your ultimate, guys. This combo, just look at this. Just look at this. Look at what happened here. If the enemies stick close to each other, they all die. They're all gonna die. They're literally all gonna die. By the way, you can also start a team fight with your ultimate. Do this if you don't feel like you can reliably hit your first ability, because I really don't recommend you to start a team fight with your third or second ability, because you're gonna be missing out so much damage when you do that. So if you feel like you can't reliably hit your first ability, you use your ultimate, then you use your third ability, your second ability, and then your first ability. And just this also snowballs into insane damage. It deals a little less damage than the first combo, but still, it's absolutely incredible. But the thing is, the reason that the first combo is stronger, because when your ultimate hits an enemy who is blazed, it's gonna briefly slow them by 50% as well. It's 30% at level 1, 40% at level 2. Basically, it slows them. So when I use an ability on an enemy, the ultimate is gonna slow them as well, which makes it even more powerful, guys. That's why I don't really recommend you to start with your ultimate, but it's okay. It's not the end of the world. You're just gonna be wasting some slows. Okay. So about the second ability during combos, I really don't recommend often to start with this one, because the Blaze combo of this one is really powerful. It deals 25% more damage, and this is your main damaging ability. Like, as you can see in a team fight, it just deals so much damage, and you really don't want to be starting with it. Like, you really don't want to be getting into a fight with this one like this. You're gonna waste so much damage. So that's why I said it's better to sacrifice the slow of your ultimate so you can start with it than the damage of your second ability. So yeah. In the ideal situation, by the way, one of your teammates stuns or roots an enemy. Like, let's say this guy just got stunned. If he gets stunned, obviously it's a free hit for my first ability. And this is what you really want to be looking for. If you can hit that enemy with your first ability, it snowballs. Then you use your third ability, second ability, and ultimate, and you just win the fight. So as I said, the ideal situation is you start your combos with your first ability. But if you can't do that, just start with your ultimate and then use your other abilities, guys. Okay, so there are more combos, but these are the general combos and the general tips and tricks. I don't want to put everything to you right now because I want to make it simple, the guide, but there is more that you can do with brand, guys. So what I recommend you to do is really listen to what I said and apply it yourself in practice mode first. Like, try it out, see what works for you, see what doesn't work, and then get into a match and really try to think of what combo to use when. So let's now talk about how to build brand. And I actually really liked the build that the game gave us, but I did some changes to it. So let's now talk about how to build him. Luden's Echo is absolutely broken on brand. You would always want to go for this one as your first item, especially after the buff. Like, they buffed this item, they gave it bonus ability power and bonus ability haste, so always Luden's Echo. Second item, Liandry's, and the reason for that is because your abilities go to a lot of different enemies. So on top of your passive burn, you're also going to be burning them with Liandry's. So, you know, Liandry's, you're going to get so much value out of the Liandry's that you have to get it. As your third item, it's situational. Rabadon's Deathcap is going to deal the most damage. However, Rylai's Crystal Scepter is an incredibly powerful item on brand, and the reason for that is the same as the Liandry's. You're going to be able to hit multiple enemies at the same time with all of your abilities. All of your abilities do AoE damage except for your first ability. So Rylai's Scepter is going to be slowing all of those enemies that you're hitting. It's also going to keep them closer so you can bounce your, you can deal even more damage to them, because the whole power of brand is having enemies stay close to each other. So here, as I said, is situational. You can go for Rylai's Scepter, you can go for Rabadon's Deathcap, you can also go for an early Infinity Orb. You could potentially build the Infinity Orb after your Luden's Echo already, if the enemy has a lot of healing, because obviously you're going to be applying that anti-heal to all of the enemies. So yeah, I really recommend Rylai's Scepter. If you don't have it third, get it fourth. And then as your last item, Void Staff. You also have this item, by the way, Crystaline's Reflector. I only recommend you to get this if you're against heavy attack damage champions. Like, if the enemy has a Zed mid lane and a Rengar jungle, boom, you get the Crystaline's Reflector in the mid lane and you're going to be safe. You can get this as your second item, third item, just when you feel like it's right. So about the runes, Electrocute is really amazing to do a lot of burst damage. However, it's not always going to be easy to proc your Electrocute. You do need to use your basic attacks with it as well. Airy could be interesting to poke in your lane, but honestly, Electrocute just feels a bit better to just deal that heavy burst damage. Third ability, basic attack, first ability, or third ability, first ability, and then basic attack. Make sure you hit that basic attack afterwards if you have an Electrocute, because otherwise it's not gonna proc, of course. So Brand is an absolute late game powerhouse, so you could be going for Gathering Storm to go for that super duper late game power. However, Brutal is also gonna be good to just, get you through the early game, because Brand is so weak in the lane and in the early game. He really deals 0 damage, so Brutal could be nice in that regard. But yeah, Gathering Storm is just a rune that I really like. It's gonna give you so much damage in the late game. So for your third rune, it's situational. Bone Plating is really good against burst heavy champions like Evelynn, Lee Sin, Fizz, Annie, champions like that. But you could also be going for Hunter Titan if the enemies have a lot of CC. Adaptive Carapace, if you want to be, safe in your lane. You could also go for conditioning if you just want to skill into the late game. However, keep in mind you're going to be very bad in the early game, especially when you combo these two runes. So, you know, I don't really recommend it, so you're much better off going for Hunter Titan. And as your fourth rune, you go for Sweet Tooth because it's broken. However, if you feel yourself running out of mana, you can also go for Mana Flow Band. But the thing is, you already have a Luden's Echo, which does give you some mana, so you just have to see, do I need mana or do I not need mana? Now for your spells, I really recommend Ignite and Flash. You can also go for Barrier, but the thing with Ignite is it just perfectly synergizes with the way that Brand works, burning an enemy. Your passive burns an enemy, your Leandris burns an enemy, and then also Ignite that burns an enemy, guys. So you can go for Barrier if you feel like you need it, but yeah, Ignite, I would recommend you Ignite. So that was it for the brand guide. You can find a link in the description to go to the Nuno and Willem guide as well when I've made it. I'm gonna make it right now. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Give the video a like, put down a comment under the video to enter the giveaway, blah blah blah. Yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next Wild Rift video. Bye bye.